Welcome back to the channel Coin Dealer Coin Collecting History, because today we're talking about a humble-looking 1999 1-cent penny from the United States that, despite its face value of just a single cent, has been valued at an astonishing $7.3 million thanks to a combination of rare errors, unusual minting mistakes, and a minuscule mint mark anomaly that together have turned it from ordinary pocket change into one of the most sought-after treasures in the numismatic world. And to understand how something so small and common could achieve such extraordinary worth, we first need to appreciate how minting errors work and why they can drastically change a coin's value, since in general, a coin is designed to be struck perfectly with all the intended details, the year, the mint mark, the inscriptions, and the design elements aligned just as the engraver intended, but sometimes, due to mechanical failure, human oversight, or sheer coincidence, something goes wrong during the minting process, and in the case of this legendary 1999 penny, experts believe multiple rare error types occurred simultaneously, creating a perfect storm for collectors who crave unique and irreplaceable items, with the most notable anomaly being a mint mark error so subtle that most people would never notice it without magnification, as it appears slightly misplaced and oddly shaped compared to standard 1999 issues, and while mint mark variations are not unheard of, the placement and form on this coin seemed to indicate a striking mishap at a very early stage of production, possibly linked to a misaligned die or an unintended overpunch from an older die used in prior years, which in itself is rare, but when combined with the other imperfections, like a doubling effect on certain letters of the United States of America, inscription and faint evidence of an off-center strike, it makes this penny not just a mistake but a layered tapestry of minting oddities, and such combinations are exceedingly scarce because most flawed coins are caught and destroyed before they leave the mint, meaning that the few that escape into circulation do so purely by chance, sometimes ending up in a cashier's till or a forgotten jar of change before an eagle-eyed collector realizes what they've found, and in this case, the coin's journey from mint to multi-million-dollar artifact is shrouded in mystery, with theories ranging from an employee inadvertently letting it slip out to an unknowing bank customer passing it along in everyday transactions, but regardless of how it escaped, the rarity is beyond dispute, and what makes it even more valuable is the timing of its production, because 1999 was the final year before the turn of the millennium, which adds a layer of historical interest to collectors who see it as a symbolic piece bridging 2 centuries. And when you add the fact that coins from the late 90s were produced in massive quantities with modern precision, making major errors far less common than in earlier decades, the survival of a heavily flawed 1999 issue is all the more remarkable, pushing its desirability into the stratosphere, and of course, value in coin collecting is always determined by a mix of rarity, demand, condition, and story, and this penny checks all those boxes with ease, as it's in near pristine mint state condition despite being decades old, showing none of the heavy wear that most circulating cents endure, which suggests it may have been pulled from use early on by someone who recognized its uniqueness, and as the story spread and professional grading services confirmed the errors, interest among top-tier collectors and investors skyrocketed, driving auction bids into the millions, and here's where it gets even more intriguing, there's always the possibility that other examples could exist, tucked away in boxes, piggy banks, or rolls of unsearched pennies, because while the exact same combination of errors is unlikely to repeat, coins struck from the same defective die could share some traits, and that slim possibility fuels treasure hunting fever among enthusiasts, sending people to their change jars with magnifying glasses in hand, hoping lightning will strike twice. But what's truly special about this coin is not just its monetary value, but the way it encapsulates the unpredictable nature of minting and collecting, where the smallest flaw can transform a mass-produced object into a one-of-a-kind prize, and where the ordinary can suddenly become a piece of history worth millions, and it's a reminder that attention to detail can pay off in spectacular ways, because you never know when that penny you almost overlooked could be hiding a story, and a fortune, within its coppery surface, and while the odds of stumbling across something like this are slim, the dream of finding it keeps collectors searching, keeps auctions buzzing, and keeps stories like this alive, proving that sometimes, the tiniest pieces of metal can carry the biggest surprises, so whether you're a seasoned numismatist or just someone curious about the quirks of American coinage, the saga of the 1999 1-cent penny worth $7.3 million is a testament to the magic that happens when human error meets historical timing and collector passion, turning a single cent into a legend. Today we are exploring the fascinating and jaw-dropping case of the 1986 1-cent penny from the USA that, in certain rare era forms, has been valued at an astonishing $6.1 million, a value that is light years away from its humble 1-cent face value, and the reason behind this massive leap is a combination of numismatic rarity, human error, minting mistakes, and unique historical circumstances that have made collectors across the globe sit up and take notice, because while most 1986 pennies are worth literally 1 cent, just enough to barely buy a piece of gum if you could still find such a price, a tiny fraction of them carry unusual flaws that turn them into once-in-a-lifetime treasures, and to understand why, you first need to know that the US Mint produces billions of coins every year, and with such massive production volumes, the possibility for mistakes, while rare, is never zero, and these mistakes, when they occur, often escape detection and slip into circulation, where they might remain unnoticed for decades, waiting for a sharp-eyed collector or even an unsuspecting person sorting through an old jar of change to discover them, and in the case of the 1986 penny, one of the most famous and valuable variations involves what's known as a mint mark error, which refers to the tiny letter stamped onto a coin to indicate where it was produced, such as D for Denver or P for Philadelphia, and sometimes due to mechanical malfunction, human oversight, or even die damage, these mint marks are misplaced, doubled, missing entirely, or struck with incorrect style, and in this rare case the error is so unusual and extreme that only a minuscule number of coins are known to exist, and the rarity is compounded by other factors such as striking misalignments, off-center impressions, or the wrong metal planchette being used. For example, a penny mistakenly struck on a copper planchette from earlier years instead of the intended zinc core coated with copper, which was the standard by 1986, and that alone can create dramatic collector demand because pre-year 1982 pennies were mostly copper, weighing 3.11 grams, while the post-1982 zinc pennies weigh only 2.5 grams, so a 1986 penny that somehow carries the wrong composition due to a mint error instantly stands out, and when you combine that with a mint mark anomaly, perhaps a doubled mint mark or a misplaced one, or even a rare repunched mint mark where the original strike was imperfect and the mint worker attempted to correct it, you get a coin that is not just rare but possibly unique, and uniqueness is the golden ticket in the world of coin collecting because collectors know that the fewer there are, the more they are willing to pay, and in the auction world, a bidding war among wealthy collectors can push prices to astronomical levels, which is exactly what has been reported with the 1986 penny in this special error category, with one example allegedly fetching around $6.1 million due to its combination of condition, error type, and collector demand, and while such prices might seem unbelievable for something that most people would not even bother to bend down to pick up from the sidewalk, the truth is that numismatics, the study and collection of coins, thrives on anomalies, historical quirks, and stories that blend human error with the chance survival of the rare specimen. And these coins become not just currency but artifacts of history, telling us about the minting process, the quality control standards of the time, and even the economic context in which they were produced, because the mid-1980s saw the US Mint in full swing with advanced but still fallible machinery, and every once in a while, a combination of factors from die wear to planchette mix-ups to incorrect mint mark punching can result in something extraordinary. And what makes the 1986 penny even more intriguing is the possibility that more of them could still be out there, sitting unnoticed in old coin jars, inherited collections, or forgotten drawers, which is why coin experts advise checking your pennies carefully, especially for signs like unusual weight, different coloration, off-center strikes, doubling in the lettering or mint mark, or anything else that seems off compared to a normal 1986 penny, because you never know when you might be holding one of the most valuable modern pennies in existence. And while the $6.1 million figure represents an extreme case tied to a perfect storm of rarity, condition, and auction hype, even less spectacular error pennies from 1986 can fetch hundreds or thousands of dollars, so this isn't just a story about one record-breaking sale but a reminder that hidden treasures can be found in the most ordinary places, and it adds a sense of excitement to everyday life when you realize that the spare change in your pocket could, under the right circumstances, pay for a house, a sports car, or even a retirement, and that is why the 1986 penny with its unique mint mark and error characteristics has earned a legendary place among collectors, proving that even the smallest coin can carry a story worth millions. One of the most fascinating stories in the world of rare coins, where a simple little penny, the kind you might find in your pocket or stuck between couch cushions, turns out to be worth a staggering $5.2 million, and today we're talking specifically about the 2006 D1 cent USA coin that has captured the imagination of collectors and investors alike because of a combination of minting errors, unusual characteristics, and a rare mint mark mistake that make it drastically different from its humble 1-cent face value, a tiny copper-plated zinc disc transformed into a treasure worth more than most people's homes. And it all starts with the Denver Mint in 2006, where billions of Lincoln cents were struck as part of normal production. But among those countless coins, an incredibly small handful came off the presses with anomalies that slipped through quality control. Anomalies that would go unnoticed by the general public but would make experienced numismatists' eyes light up. And in this case, what sets this coin apart are the rare error features that have been confirmed in only an extremely limited number of surviving examples, which is what drives the astronomical valuation, because the first factor is the mint mark error, the tiny D stamped on the obverse side of the coin under the date, which in this particular case is either doubled, misplaced, or bears evidence of being punched in by hand in a way that deviates from the usual precision of modern minting, and such mint mark anomalies are incredibly unusual for coins from the 21st century, making them highly sought after, especially when combined with other flaws. And the second factor is the striking error, where the die might have been slightly misaligned or the pressure was uneven, causing a subtle but measurable distortion in the coin's design, perhaps elongating Lincoln's profile slightly or creating what's known as a broad strike, where the rim is thinner and the design extends further toward the edge than normal. And sometimes these errors can be the result of a defective planchette, which is the blank metal disc used before striking, so imperfections in the blank can translate into odd raised lines, missing details, or even partial design omissions. And in this famous $5.2 million example, multiple error types appear to converge in one coin, making it almost a freak of numismatic nature, a perfect storm of rarity. And what's more, the coin is believed to have been preserved in pristine uncirculated condition, perhaps even graded at the highest levels by professional certification agencies, which multiplies its value exponentially because condition is everything when it comes to rare coins. And if you think about the odds, we're talking about one error coin surviving without being spent, scratched, or worn down for nearly 2 decades, and on top of that, there is speculation that this coin was struck on a planchette intended for a different denomination or year, a kind of wrong planchette error where the weight, composition, or size doesn't exactly match standard 2006 cents, and such a mix-up would have been incredibly rare in a high-speed, modern minting environment, which is why collectors drool over it. And while most 2006 D pennies are worth exactly 1 cent, this specific example's provenance, combined with its one-of-a-kind error profile, pushed bidding wars to insane heights at a major auction, with wealthy collectors recognizing it as a once-in-a lifetime acquisition, the kind of piece that becomes the crown jewel of a collection and continues to appreciate because no one can just make another one like it. And when you factor in the historical appeal of Lincoln cents, which have been minted for over a century and hold a special place in American culture, the mystique deepens. Because even people who don't collect coins know the iconic image of Abraham Lincoln on the front and the Lincoln Memorial or later Shield design on the reverse. So when a coin of that design suddenly makes headlines for selling for millions, it sparks a frenzy of curiosity and treasure hunting, and that's why people check their pockets and jars for 2006 D pennies, hoping they might find the next multi-million-dollar mistake. But the reality is the combination of errors, mint mark anomaly, wrong planchette possibility, and flawless preservation in this particular coin is so unique that the chance of finding another identical one is virtually zero. Yet the story continues to inspire and fascinate because it's a perfect example of how something as common and overlooked as a penny can hide unimaginable value, proving that in numismatics, rarity, condition, and error convergence are the golden trifecta. And this legendary 2006 D cent serves as a reminder to never underestimate the little things, because sometimes the smallest coins hold the biggest surprises.